I still can't believe the words came out of her mouth. The best gift would be if you just died. My own daughter said that to me, on my birthday of all days. Can you imagine the gut punch, the utter betrayal? I'm here to tell you the whole story, every agonizing detail. And I need you to tell me if I was wrong for what I did next. Because after hearing that, after years of sacrifice and endless giving, I snapped. I canceled everything. Was I wrong to cut off all funding, to pull the rug out from under the very person I had given everything for? Let me take you back to the beginning, to a time when my relationship with my daughter, Sarah, was, or at least I thought it was, a loving one. My wife and I had Sarah when we were quite young, both just out of college, full of dreams and idealism. We didn't have much money back then, but we had an abundance of love and a fierce determination to give Sarah the best life possible. I worked tirelessly, often taking on extra shifts and weekend jobs, while my wife juggled her part-time work with raising Sarah. We scrimped and saved, making sure Sarah had every opportunity, every toy, every experience we could possibly afford. From ballet lessons to soccer camps, from private tutors to the latest gadgets, if Sarah wanted it, we found a way to provide it. We truly believed we were setting her up for success, nurturing her talents, and building her self-esteem. As Sarah grew, she became a bright, vivacious child. She excelled in school, had a wide circle of friends, and seemed to genuinely appreciate everything we did for her. We were so proud, often bragging about her accomplishments to anyone who would listen. Her teenage years were, for the most part, uneventful, a testament, we thought, to our stable home and attentive parenting. We talked openly about her future, her college aspirations, and her career dreams. She always had a strong interest in the arts, particularly fashion design, which, while not a traditionally high-paying field, we were fully prepared to support. My wife and I agreed that if she had a passion, we would do everything in our power to help her pursue it. When it came time for college, Sarah set her sights on a prestigious, out-of-state university known for its elite fashion program. The tuition was astronomical, easily more than my annual salary at the time. My wife and I sat down, crunched numbers, and made a decision that would impact our financial future significantly. We would fully fund her education. We emptied our savings, took out a second mortgage on our house, and even dipped into our retirement funds. We saw it as an investment, not just in her future, but in our legacy. We wanted her to have every advantage, to walk into her career unburdened by student debt. We told her, "Your only job is to focus on your studies and make us proud." And for the first couple of years, she did. She sent us glowing report cards, shared her design sketches, and called us regularly, expressing her gratitude and excitement. But then, something started to shift. The phone calls became less frequent, the enthusiasm in her voice waned, and her grades, while still passing, weren't as stellar as before. She started asking for more money, citing unexpected expenses for art supplies, textbooks, and networking events. We, being the doting parents we were, never questioned it. We just sent the money, sometimes even more than she asked for, wanting to ensure she wasn't stressed about finances. We visited her campus once, and while she was polite, there was a subtle coolness, a distance that hadn't been there before. She seemed more interested in her friends and her busy social life than in spending quality time with us. I chalked it up to her growing independence, a natural part of college life. After 4 years, Sarah graduated with a degree in fashion design. We flew out, attended her graduation, and watched her walk across that stage with immense pride, tears in our eyes. We truly believed she was on the cusp of a brilliant career. We had already set up a trust fund for her, a substantial sum intended to help her launch her business, secure a studio, and get her foot in the door. We also continued to pay for her apartment rent in a trendy part of the city, her car payments, and even her health insurance. We figured this initial financial cushion would give her the freedom to pursue her dreams without the pressure of immediately making ends meet. But that initial cushion turned into a permanent safety net. Sarah struggled to find a job in the highly competitive fashion industry. Or, more accurately, she struggled to keep a job. She would land an internship or an assistant position, but within a few months, she'd either quit, claiming the work was beneath her, or not creatively stimulating, or she'd be let go for what she described as personality clashes or unreasonable demands. My wife and I tried to gently encourage her, suggesting she might need to start at the bottom, gain experience, and build her way up. But she'd often get defensive, accusing us of not understanding the complexities of the industry, or of not believing in her artistic vision. Years passed, and Sarah was still relying almost entirely on us. The trust fund was slowly dwindling, not from investments in her business, but from her lavish lifestyle. She still lived in the expensive apartment, drove a luxury car, and dressed in designer clothes, all paid for by us. Her fashion business consisted of a website that rarely got updated and a few occasional freelance gigs that barely covered the cost of her coffee habits. My wife and I were getting older, our retirement funds depleted, and the second mortgage was still a heavy burden. We started having serious discussions about scaling back our financial support, gently nudging Sarah towards greater self-sufficiency. Each conversation, however, was met with resistance, tears, and accusations of us abandoning her, or not loving her enough. She would say things like, "How can I be creative when I'm constantly worried about money?" Or "You promised you'd support my dreams." It was emotionally manipulative, and we, being her parents, always caved. We loved her fiercely, and the thought of her struggling, truly struggling, was unbearable. So, we continued to write the checks, sacrificing our own comforts and future security for her perceived happiness. It got to the point where I was working well past the age I had planned to retire, just to keep up with her expenses. My health was starting to decline, and the stress was immense. My wife worried constantly, her once vibrant spirit dimmed by the weight of our financial commitments to Sarah. We tried everything, encouraging her to get a regular job, suggesting career counseling, even offering to help her find more affordable living arrangements. Nothing worked. She had become entitled, accustomed to a life of luxury she hadn't earned, and completely dependent on our endless generosity. She saw our money not as a gift, but as her birthright. So that's the situation I was in, a situation that had been building for years, culminating in that awful birthday conversation. Before I tell you what happened next, what I actually did, I want you to pause and comment below what you would have done in my shoes. Would you have continued to enable her? Would you have finally drawn a line? What would your breaking point be? My birthday, it was a milestone birthday, one I had hoped to celebrate with my family, finally relaxing a little, perhaps planning a quiet retirement with my wife. We had invited Sarah over for a special dinner at our home. My wife had cooked all my favorite dishes, and the atmosphere, initially, was pleasant, if a little strained. We exchanged gifts. Sarah, as usual, hadn't gotten me anything. She rarely did. Instead, she handed me a printed list. "Dad," she said with an air of expectation, "I've made a list of things I need for my new creative venture. It's a really big opportunity, and I need you to fund it. It includes a new studio space, some..." high-end equipment, and a significant marketing budget. I've estimated it at about $50,000. I stared at the list, then at her. $50,000, on top of everything else we were already paying for. My heart sank. I looked at my wife, whose face mirrored my own exhaustion and despair. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice even. "Sarah," I began, "your mother and I have given you everything. We've sacrificed our retirement, our savings, our peace of mind. We're getting older, and frankly, we can't keep doing this. You're a grown woman. It's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet." Her eyes narrowed. The charming, grateful daughter I once knew vanished, replaced by a cold, angry stranger. "What are you talking about?" she snapped, her voice rising. "You promised. You always said you'd support my dreams. Are you going back on your word now, just when I'm about to make it big?" "Sarah," my wife interjected, her voice trembling, "we love you, but this is unsustainable. We simply don't have it anymore. We've given you every opportunity. It's time for you to take responsibility." That's when it happened. That's when the words that will forever haunt me, that shattered my heart into a million pieces, came out of her mouth. She glared at me, her eyes filled with venom, and said, with absolute disdain, "The best gift would be if you just died. Then I wouldn't have to deal with your pathetic excuses, and I could finally inherit everything and do what I want without you holding me back." Silence. A heavy, suffocating silence descended upon the dining room. My wife gasped, clutching her chest, tears instantly welling in her eyes. I felt a cold dread wash over me, quickly followed by a searing, white-hot rage unlike anything I had ever experienced. The years of sacrifice, the sleepless nights, the endless worry, the financial strain, the emotional manipulation, it all coalesced into a single, undeniable truth. This wasn't my daughter anymore. This was an entitled, cruel stranger who saw me only as an ATM, a hurdle to her imagined inheritance. I stood up slowly, my hands clenched into fists, my voice low and dangerously calm. "Get out," I said, the words barely audible. Sarah looked stunned, her anger momentarily replaced by confusion. "What did you say?" I said, "Get out of my house." I repeated, my voice growing stronger, "and don't ever come back." She scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping her lips. "You can't be serious. Where am I supposed to go? Who's going to pay for my apartment, my car, my everything? That's no longer my problem," I stated, the decision hardening in my heart with every word. "Effective immediately, every single cent of financial support you receive from your mother and me is canceled. The trust fund, the rent, the car payments, the health insurance, all of it, done. Finished. You want me to die for your inheritance. Fine. Consider me dead to you. From this moment on, you are on your own." My wife, though visibly distraught, looked at me with a mixture of horror and relief. Sarah's face drained of color. The reality of my words finally hit her. She tried to backtrack, to apologize, to cry, but it was too late. The dam had broken. I escorted her to the door, handed her a small overnight bag my wife had packed with some essentials, and watched her leave. The days and weeks that followed were agonizing. Sarah tried to call, to text, sending a barrage of angry, then tearful, then pleading messages. I ignored them all. My wife, bless her heart, was torn. She loved Sarah, but she understood that I had reached my breaking point. We grieved the loss of the daughter we thought we had, the daughter we had poured our lives into. There were times I doubted myself, wondering if I had been too harsh, too unforgiving. But then I would remember her words, "The best gift would be if you just died," and the resolve would return. Slowly, incredibly slowly, things began to change. Sarah's apartment lease came to an end, and without our funding, she couldn't renew it. She had to move out, find a roommate, and take on a minimum wage job just to cover her basic expenses. Her luxury car was repossessed, and she learned what it was like to take public transport. She started to experience the real world, the world we had shielded her from for so long. We heard through mutual friends that she was struggling, that she was humbled, and that she was finally starting to understand the value of a dollar, the weight of responsibility. It's been almost 2 years since that fateful birthday. Sarah still hasn't truly apologized, not in a way that feels sincere and heartfelt, but there have been subtle shifts. She's called a few times, not asking for money, but just to talk, to ask about our health. She's even sent a small, handmade card for my wife's birthday, a stark contrast to her previous empty-handed visits. I don't know if our relationship will ever fully heal, if we'll ever be the close family we once were, but for the first time in a very long time, I feel a sense of peace. My wife and I are finally starting to plan our retirement, to enjoy the fruits of our labor, to live without the constant burden of Sarah's financial demands. It was a painful, brutal lesson for all of us, but sometimes tough love is the only love that truly makes a difference. So that's my story. It's been a long journey, full of heartache and hard decisions. If you were on my side, if you understand why I did what I did, please like this video. Subscribe for more stories like this, where I share the raw, unfiltered truth of life's toughest moments. And most importantly, share your final thoughts on this whole, messy situation in the comments section below. I'll see you all in the next story. Is ko Polish language ma convert, kr